With NTE being released for a while now, and with Hotori being added into the cast of NTE, we're able to see a pretty clear picture on how the meta is shaping up to be. So in today's video, let's take a look at the best teams of NTE and what the meta is shaping up to be like, who are the best teams, and what are the future directions of NTE is looking to become. With all that said, let's just start. Just real quick before we start, if you're looking for the best deals for top-ups in games like Neverness to Everness, I'd like to share with you the website I usually use, which is Loot Bar. Loot Bar is very direct. They offer the best prices for the same top-ups you'd find in-game. You can see how much you save right beside the price tag here. You can actually save quite a good amount, up to 25% if you register now with my link and use those new user coupons too. What's best for me is how easy it is to set up. Simply click on my link in the description, register an account if you don't have one yet, select any bundles you would like, complete the payment, choose self top up, log into your account. Now this is secured since it is set up as a one-time cloud device, so you don't gotta worry about that. You'll then see your account in-game on the browser, go to the store and click on the bundle you purchase. You'll be able to redeem it right away and voila, you'll have your resources. Then simply log out, your data will be automatically cleared. If you would prefer not to log in, there's even a direct top-up feature where if you bind your email to your game account, you can enjoy direct top-up without logging in even. All the more convenient. I've been using Loot Bar for almost 2 years now and I have had no issues, and they also have thousands of great reviews on Trustpilot. Loot Bar's been around the block. They're also used by multiple other big name creators too, so no complaints from me. Just as a side note, Loot Bar also has official CD keys on sale for some really big Steam games like Art Raiders. You get up to 80% off plus extra 20% cashback for these keys, so yeah, check it out. If you're interested, click my link in the description and give Loot Bar a shot. It does help me out a ton as well, so I'd appreciate that. To start us off, let's take a look at Tier 0, which are the best characters of this game. We'll start with a damage dealer slot, where we see two characters in Tier 0, namely Nanally and Chiz. Now, at this point in time, I think most people are starting to get Chiz, or almost are getting Chiz, finally available in their account. Do remember that Chiz is completely free, and she's actually a pretty strong damage dealer. Now, it is only true that she's at the top level, though, if you do have some potentials for her, specifically A3 and above, as also listed in Printman here. At A0, though, she is a tier lower than someone like nanally, which thankfully you can get full awakening Chiz for free anyway. So Chiz is pretty much the go-to damage dealer right now for anybody if you're just not looking to pull anyone. It's a free character, you might as well use them, right? It's a really worthy character to build because, well, she's simply pretty strong. And considering you can get full free awakenings from her, it's the best time to utilize Chiz before like newer and stronger characters get released, right? I'm really shocked that they just gave this character for free and full awakenings of her for free as well. Usually with games, they would just give like the base, card character for free and you would not get the awakenings, but for this one, you can actually get all the awakenings for free just by playing the game. And yeah, her strength is pretty good, especially at high awakenings for sure, where you mainly utilize her passive that aids the charge as per cycle, where you're likely user in a team of Chiz, Hathor, MC, and Jiuyuan. A team like that will be the trigger charge and make sure the whole team's energy levels are as high as can be, so have a really smooth rotation, and she's able to stand on field and kick ass. And if we look at the other tier 0 DPS though, we do see Nanally. This one is not surprising at all. She's the first limited character and the first limited main DPS of the game. Obviously, she's going to have to be strong, and I mean, it is very direct, right? Nanally is strong, and she's just so simple to use that, well, you really can't complain much with Nanally. I would say for most people, the best scenario for their accounts right now would be having the Nanally perfect team setup with a Chiz team setup at the side, and that'll work out really well for anyone's account. Now, to look at the tier 0 hybrid characters, which are characters that are not supposed to stand on field and be the main damage dealer, and does have a lot of supportive capabilities as well, we do see the newly added Hotori. I think no one's gonna doubt Hotori. She is pretty much the best character. I mean, straight up, not even needing to separate her into any roles, I just straight up think she's the best character bar none in the whole game. Her time stop is ridiculously strong, and her ability to copy everybody's skill and utilizing them to like make your team shine well, and the fact that she can copy the effects of such skills as well, making her insanely versatile and valuable. Just by having her in your team, it's like having way less cooldown for fun. It's a free skill usage, right? Pairing her with someone like MC, which is also tier 0, which is definitely fairly deserved, you can copy the MC's skill, giving the MC full cycle gauge instantly, and that opens up such explosive cycling and rotation for your team, and it just feels so nice to play. Not to mention, Hotori's damage output is decently high as well, so like that's just nothing to complain about. Hotori, she fits in like the best Nanally Blossom team. You can technically force her into any other team as well, just for the time stops and the skill copying, but obviously the Blossom team is where she is most ideal in, and that is pretty much the strongest team right now in the game. To move on to MC in tier 0 though, this one's pretty pretty obvious as well. MC is actually one of the most versatile characters for this game, simply for the fact that they could just come in, use a skill, instantly max the cycle gauge, and then get out. The damage output you get from them is not even that bad. And with this game where it's so important to utilize Esper cycles, having someone that can instantly max the cycle gauge to get that Esper cycle going is very much just pure value. So seeing MC at tier 0, I'm totally in agreement, and I'm just happy to see so many free options in tier 0, right? Speaking of free options, we do see the support, where we do have Haniel. Now, if you max her awakening, Haniel as even an A rank character is still very strong. She's like the free-to-play version of Sakiri if you don't have Sakiri. She has really strong buffs for the entire team, and her element works well for some teams as well to trigger Esper cycles like Discord. Even without triggering Esper cycles, her general buffs does help your team a lot. If you have no one better to put in your team, Haniel can always be the answer. And guess what? She's also free in this game, so yeah, another free character in tier 0, baby. The final character in tier 0, which are basically the strongest tiers, we do see Sakiri, and this one is definitely the no-brainer. Sakiri has that attack buff, she has that defense reduction, and of course her element can help with a variety of Esper cycles as well, like hexes. She can pretty much be the premium version of Haniel, where if you still really don't have any idea who to use in the team, well, a general buffer like Sakiri will always not be a bad choice, right? Seeing that you can actually claim a free standard character, and most people have that option be Sakiri anyway, she might as well just be free in my eyes. So another pretty accessible character for everybody that's of tier 0. So pretty cool stuff. Moving on from tier 0, we do see tier 0.5 now, which are still really strong characters that can be very easily used. And to start us off with the damage dealer slot, we do see Bai Tong and Chiz. We already mentioned about Chiz before. This one's A0 if we assume her at the base level. Then she's not exactly at the nanally tier, right? But she's still strong. In terms of Bai Tong though, he's definitely a lot harder to use than someone like nanally, where you have to know a lot of his combos, what inputs to use with him. They're definitely an easy way to play him, but if you want to play him perfectly, you will have to adapt and make sure you use the right attacks during the right timings and right situation. If you do though, you do get a character that's just pretty strong as a main damage dealer. Not exactly at the level of nanally though. A tier 0.5 seems very much fair for someone like Bai Tong at 0 awakening. You'll tend to see people use Bai Tong along with someone like Daffodil in order to make a really good Discord team where breaking the boss really consistently, and that team can actually beat out a lot of even the tier 0 teams if you play perfectly and if the boss has just a lot of parry moments that Daffodil can utilize. So Bai Tong at tier 0.5 seems fair to me. Moving on to the hybrid slots though, we do see Daffodil, Hathor, and Zhuyuan at tier 0.5. I would personally actually put Zhuyuan in tier 0 just because the Blossom team is that strong. Plus, Zhuyuan as a whole is still a very all-usable character, especially with the gathering effect with her skill. It's actually a pretty underrated part about her kit, which is with her strong gathering effect, right? In some endgame modes, against a lot of the mobs, it gets really annoying when they start scattering a bit too much, and having Zhuyuan to just gather them together is just such a good relief for you. But in the end though, if we say is Zhuyuan at the same level of Hotori, I wouldn't exactly say yes. So yeah, perhaps Zhuyuan at tier 0.5 is still very much acceptable. Let me know what you think though. Now in terms of Daffodil and Hathor, I do think these two are more niche compared to like the strongest team available in the game. Hathor, for example, is usually only used in a lot of the charge teams that utilizes her element. Now, especially with the addition of Hotori, Hathor has become definitely a lot easier to use as well if you want to play that Hotori, nanally, Hathor charge team. But is Hathor at the level of tier 0 though? I personally don't think so. She does have pretty good damage, and she does have quite the rare element. I wouldn't say she's at the level of the best tier ever though, but she's certainly a strong character. Now to mention about Daffodil, this one's actually the dark horse of the whole game, I would say. She can be so incredibly strong if the enemy boss is allowing you to parry them a lot, and you keep parrying them perfectly with Daffodil, and you actually perform at a really strong level with Daffodil for sure. I'm willing to say she can be tier 0 especially if you have some awakenings of her at about A2+. That's when her performance really does jump up, and her entire shtick is to be able to break the boss. You'll be using her in teams that can utilize Discord ideally, pairing her with someone like Bai Tong, Haniel, and even Sakiri. Getting that Esper cycle Discord to happen while utilizing the passive of Daffodil will allow you to do a lot of break damage to the boss if you can break them consistently. Now this team does require you to swap a lot perfectly. If you can parry the boss, she gets an ult for free. Even if you don't parry the boss, you do still have to manage your rotations and cycles well in order to min-max what Daffodil can bring to the table. So she's not exactly the easiest character to use compared to the tier 0 guys, but I would say her ceiling is very high though. Truly the underrated character for me. But for the general public, you won't be able to like perfectly play her, especially in every possible scenario. There are definitely times where you're just fighting scattered mobs, or the boss just doesn't allow you to like break them too much or parry them that much at all. You definitely won't get the perfect scenario every time, but overall she's still really strong. Tier 0.5 at A0 seems fair to me. To move on from tier 0.5, we do see tier 1 and below. This is where we have the characters that are pretty much more of like alternatives than the main main characters that you would go into. To start with the damage dealers, we do see Aurelia in tier 1, Mint and Skia in tier 2. I personally have not used Aurelia too much myself, so I really don't know how good she is, but as an A rank character, seeing her at tier 1 below the strong S rank character seems fair, at least on paper for sure. But then again though, if you do use Aurelia well in like a proper team setup with the perfect ideal buffs for her, of course she'll still do fine. I don't think the game is difficult enough at the point where, oh, you definitely cannot clear well unless you use the top teams right now. But in any case, to mention about the rest of the damage dealers at tier 2 though, I have used Mint and I have used Skia sometimes. They definitely are just simpler characters where they simply just don't do enough damage, right? Or they don't do enough to really shine through and take on the same stage as some of the S ranks option. Can you still use them though in some teams? Absolutely. As long as you have the proper teams for them, they'll still function fine. Just not at the level of like the meta stuff, right? Considering how many free options are high tiers in this game, I don't think this is much of a problem. They're gonna be weaker and stronger characters in any games, obviously. Now to check out the hybrid, we got Fadia in tier 1. Now Fadia's main deal is definitely still survival and helping your team live, which I think for that regard, she's still great. Given she's from the Psyche element as well, you can use her as the slot to trigger Discord, along with characters like Baitang and Daffodil. Otherwise though, you can actually just use her generally as the survival slot, but she doesn't provide as much supportive capabilities as some of the other options that we have. So tier 1 for Fadia seems fair, and honestly, same could be said about the supportive role of Adler as well. He does have like kind of an RNG mechanic to him though, where you do land debuffs at random, and in the end, they are better options, I would say, in terms of just offensive capabilities. You still have to value some of Adler's defensive abilities though, with how he can provide shields with his kit. But overall, you're definitely gonna see more recommendations for Haniel or Sakiri in the support slot in most teams. With all that out the way, the final character in tier 3 would be Edgar. Edgar is definitely a lot more of a survival healer type of character, but that's like the main thing that he brings and like the only thing, which is just the healing. I guess you could say the element is nice, but given that there are a lot of good Cosmos element characters in the game like the MC or Hotori, it's not like you have to have Edgar to be the person that holds the Cosmos element, and the healing isn't exactly as like useful as a lot of the other things that the game provides. I would say the healing is great when you come also with like supportive capabilities like buffing or debuffing, which Edgar definitely lacks in those regards. Therefore, he's at tier 3, not exactly the strongest character, but hey, if one day there are really high stress scenarios where healing becomes a must, then Edgar would suddenly be better for sure. But that is certainly not happening right now though. Now with the character list out the way, Privet has also prepared a team tier list, which is awesome, and I would say it's kind of reflective of what the character tier lists are. The strongest character you'll see in tier 0, with some of the higher ceilings one you see as well, like the Baitang Daffodil team, where if you are able to play them well and you parry a lot of the boss, they are definitely at like tier 0's level, right? A Daffodil team that also has Baitang that utilizes Discord, especially at high awakenings, of course is also at tier 0, especially if you can play them well. Nanally, Hotori, and Shiz all being high tier characters at tier 0 definitely makes a lot of sense. And moving down the line, you do have tier 0.5 with mostly alternative teams or someone like just Hathor as the hyper carry. These are definitely interesting teams, though they're not at the ideal version of them, right? And as for T1 and T2, these are a lot of the niche teams where you're still using, you know, A rank characters with the best possible setup of all the S ranks right here. So on paper, it definitely still makes sense. They're just not competing at the same level as the high tier teams for sure. And that would shape up the current meta of NTE in version 1. Now with the future version, we already know someone like Lacrimosa is going to be coming, and that character is certainly going to shake up the meta for sure. I do expect someone like Daffodil to easily be tier 0 moving down the line if Lacrimosa and Daffodil works well together. I personally think they will, but I will have to see before we decide on that. So seeing as how they focus on Blossom and Charge basically right now, it's a likely chance that the game will focus on the rest of the Esper cycles, and they'll release a completed team for each Esper cycle, and Discord's probably the next one on the list, right? But we'll have to see how power scaling works in NTE with some time pass first. But so far, all the new characters are top tier. Those are normal. A lot of the standard characters are exceptionally good. Even some of the A ranks are great. I feel like NTE is in a really comfortable spot where a lot of players can enjoy with pretty much any characters, I would say. I do find this game more of like a casual lifestyle type game where you're just enjoying your time with the characters you have, rather than the, oh, you gotta grind the hardest, perform the hardest, right? Which is why I'm happy to see like a lot of standard characters still really strong. We'll see how long that takes to change though. Power scaling and power difference will definitely appear with more time, right? But for now, I like where the game is at. It feels comfy to play. I just enjoy my time a lot with the characters, just messing around, stealing cars, shooting people, or going on dates, I guess. And that'll be all. Let me know what you think, and I'll be covering a lot of more of NTE, so do follow along for all of that if you're interested. I'd appreciate that. That'll be all, and take care.